the words, "A truly beautiful shade, a cloth of smoked grey shot with flame colour." The material met with the customer's approval, a price was agreed upon, and with incredible celerity the vendor made up the purchase into a brown paper parcel and stowed it away in Chichikov's koliaska. At this moment a voice asked to be shown a black frock coat. "The devil take me if it isn't Khlobuev," muttered our hero, turning his back upon the newcomer. Unfortunately the other had seen him. "Come, come, Paul Ivanovitch," he expostulated. "Surely you do not intend to overlook me? I have been searching for you everywhere, for I have something important to say to you." "My dear sir, my very dear sir," said Chichikov as he pressed Khlobuev's hand, "I can assure you that, had I the necessary leisure, I should at all times be charmed to converse with you." And mentally he added, "Would that the evil one would fly away with you." Almost at the same time Murazov, the great landowner, entered the shop. As he did so, our hero hastened to exclaim, "Why, it is Athanasi Vassilievitch! How are you, my very dear sir?" "Well enough," replied Murazov, removing his cap. Khlobuev and the shopman had already done the same. "How, may I ask, are you?" "But poorly," replied Chichikov, "for of late I have been troubled with indigestion, and my sleep is bad. I do not get sufficient exercise." However, instead of probing deeper into the subject of Chichikov's ailments, Murazov turned to Khlobuev. "I saw you enter the shop," he said, "and therefore followed you, for I have something important for your ear. Could you spare me a minute or two?" "Certainly, certainly," said Khlobuev, and the pair left the shop together. "I wonder what is afoot between them," said Chichikov to himself. "A wise and noble gentleman, Athanasi Vassilievitch," remarked the tradesman. Chichikov made no reply, save a gesture. "Paul Ivanovitch, I have been looking for you everywhere," Lienitsin's voice said from behind him, while again the tradesman hastened to remove his cap. "Pray come home with me, for I have something to say to you." Chichikov scanned the speaker's face, but could make nothing of it. Paying the tradesman for the cloth, he left the shop. Meanwhile Murazov had conveyed Khlobuev to his rooms. "Tell me," he said to his guest, "exactly how your affairs stand. I take it that after all your aunt left you something?" "It would be difficult to say whether or not my affairs are improved," replied Khlobuev. "True, 50 souls and 30,000 roubles came to me from Madame Khanasarova, but I had to pay them away to satisfy my debts. Consequently, I am once more destitute. But the important point is that there was trickery connected with the legacy, and shameful trickery at that. Yes, though it may surprise you, it is a fact that that fellow Chichikov—" "Yes, Semen Semenovitch, but before you go on to speak of Chichikov, pray tell me something about yourself, and how much, in your opinion, would be sufficient to clear you of your difficulties." "My difficulties are grievous," replied Khlobuev. "To rid myself of them, and also to have enough to go on with, I should need to acquire at least 100,000 roubles, if not more. In short, things are becoming impossible for me." "And, had you the money, what should you do with it?" "I should rent a tenement, and devote myself to the education of my children. Not a thought should I give myself, for my career is over, seeing that it is impossible for me to re enter the civil service, and I am good for nothing else." "Nevertheless, when a man is leading an idle life, he is apt to incur temptations which shun his better employed brother." "Yes, but beyond question I am good for nothing, so broken is my health, and such a martyr I am to dyspepsia." "But how do you propose to live without working? How can a man like you exist without a post or a position of any kind? Look around you at the works of God. Everything has its proper function, and pursues its proper course. Even a stone can be used for one purpose or another. How, then, can it be right for a man who is a thinking being to remain a drone? But I should not be a drone, for I should employ myself with the education of my children." "No, Semen Semenovitch, no. That you would find the hardest task of all. For how can a man educate his children who is never educated himself? Instruction can be imparted to children only through the medium of example, and would a life like yours furnish them with a profitable example, a life which has been spent in idleness and the playing of cards? No, Semen Semenovitch. You had far better hand your children over to me. Otherwise they will be ruined. Do not think that I am jesting. Idleness has wrecked your life, and you must flee from it. Can a man live with nothing to keep him in place? Even a journeyman labourer who earns the barest pittance may take an interest in his occupation." "Athanasi Vassilievitch, I have tried to overcome myself, but what further resource lies open to me? Can I, who am old and incapable, re-enter the civil service and spend year after year at a desk with youths who are just starting their careers? Moreover, I have lost the trick of taking bribes. I should only hinder both myself and others, while, as you know, it is a department which has an established caste of its own. Therefore, though I have considered, and even attempted to obtain, every conceivable post, I find myself incompetent for them all. Only in a monastery should I— Nay, nay, monasteries again are only for those who have worked. To those who have spent their youth in dissipation, such havens say what the ant said to the dragon-fly, namely, "Go away and return to your dancing." Yes, even in a monastery do folk toil and toil. They do not sit playing whist. Murazov looked at Khlobuev and added, "Semen Semenovitch, you are deceiving both yourself and me." Poor Khlobuev could not utter a word in reply, and Murazov began to feel sorry for him. "Listen, Semen Semenovitch," he went on. "I know that you say your prayers, and that you go to church, and that you observe both Matin and Vespers, and that, though averse to early rising, you leave your bed at 4 o'clock in the morning before the household fires have been lit." "Ah, Athanasi Vassilievitch," said Khlobuev, "that is another matter altogether. That I do not for man's sake, but for the sake of him who has ordered all things here on earth. Yes, I believe that he at least can feel compassion for me, that he, at least, though I be foul and lowly, will pardon me and receive me when all men have cast me out, and my best friend has betrayed me and boasted that he has done it for a good end." Khlobuev's face was glowing with emotion, and from the older man's eyes also a tear had started. "You will do well to hearken unto him who is merciful," he said. "But remember also that in the eyes of the All-Merciful, honest toil is of equal merit with a prayer. Therefore, take unto yourself whatsoever task you may, and do it as though you were doing it not unto man, but unto God. Even though to your lot there should fall but the cleaning of a floor, clean that floor as though it were being cleaned for Him alone, and thence at least this good you will reap, that there will remain to you no time for what is evil, for card-playing, for feasting, for all the life of this gay world. Are you acquainted with Ivan Potapitch?" "Yes, not only am I acquainted with him, but I also greatly respect him." "Time was when Ivan Potapitch was a merchant worth 500,000 roubles. In everything did he look but for gain, and his affairs prospered exceedingly, so much so that he was able to send his son to be educated in France, and to marry his daughter to a general. And whether in his office or at the exchange, he would stop any friend whom he encountered, and carry him off to a tavern to drink, and spend whole days thus employed. But at last he became bankrupt, and God sent him other misfortunes also. His son— Ah, well, Ivan Potapitch is now my steward, for he had to begin life over again. But once more his affairs are in order, and, had it been his wish, he could have restarted in business with a capital of 500,000 roubles. But no, he said, a steward am I, and a steward will I remain to the end, for, from being full-stomached and heavy with dropsy, I have become strong and well. Not a drop of liquor passes his lips, but only cabbage soup and gruel. And he prays as none of the rest of us pray, and he helps the poor as none of the rest of us help them, and to this he would add yet further charity if his means permitted him to do so." Poor Khlobuev remained silent as before. The elder man took his 2 hands in his. "Semen Semenovitch," he said, "you cannot think how much I pity you, or how much I have had you in my thoughts. Listen to me. In the monastery there is a recluse who never looks upon a human face. Of all men whom I know he has the broadest mind, and he breaks not his silence save to give advice. To him I went and said that I had a friend, though I did not actually mention your name, who was in great trouble of soul. Suddenly the recluse interrupted me with the words, 'God's work first, and our own last. There is a need for a church to be built, but no money wherewith to build it. Money must be collected to that end.' Then he shut to the wicket. I wondered to myself what this could mean, and concluded that the recluse had been unwilling to accord me his counsel. Next I repaired to the archimandrite, and had scarce reached his door when he inquired of me whether I could commend to him a man to be entrusted with the collection of alms for a church, a man who should belong to the dvorian or to the more lettered merchants, but who would guard the trust as he would guard the salvation of his soul. On the instant thought I to myself, why should not the Holy Father appoint my friend Semen Semenovitch? for the way of suffering would benefit him greatly, and as he passed with his ledger from landowner to peasant, and from peasant to townsman, he would learn where folk dwell, and who stands in need of aught,